Stay tuned for a local production in Premier 12 Singapore's signature series.
About 300 years ago, my ancestors, the Verhagens, had a factory in Holland which made a lighting device called kausha. In Dutch, it literally means little sock. I'm Angelique Theo, and my grandmother Verhagen told me that the kausha used to light up the lamps of Southeast Asia. The lamp has become obsolete, and so it appears have my distant relatives. I set out to Holland to find the lamp, hoping that this would lead me to family members who may still be there. First stop on my quest was Amsterdam, and Mum came with me.
Oh, I should dye my hair that color.
Although my maternal grandmother is a member of the Verhagen family, Mum and I had never been to Holland. This would be as much a learning experience for her as it would be for me. Amsterdam is a charming Dutch city with a quaint mixture of old and new. It is also the largest city in the Netherlands. There is an excellent public transport system, but it's quite clear that bicycles are also the preferred mode of travel. After all, Holland is very environmentally conscious, as well as relatively flat.
Oh, it's starting to rain again. Oh, look.
The first thing we both noticed was how much colder it was here. Although we arrived in the late autumn, it really felt more like midwinter.
Those are nice buildings, huh?
Having Mum travel with me was like having my best friend along. We set ourselves 3 goals that we wanted to accomplish on this journey. The first, to find the elusive kausha lamp. The second, to locate the Verhagen factory where the lamp was made. And the third, and most important, to locate a Verhagen. As we had a day in Amsterdam before departing for Rotterdam on our quest, we decided to make the most of the little spare time that we had and explored the city. When you travel to a foreign country, it is inevitable that you have to sample the local delights. We had heard so much about Dutch salted herring, I could almost taste it.
Hi.
Hi. 2 pieces?
2 pieces.
Just 2, yeah?
1 with onion.
1 with pickles.
Okay. Small one.
First time.
1 with onion.
Yes, our first taste, and we didn't practice restraint. All the trimmings, please.
Yeah.
I thought it might be a little like Japanese sashimi, but it was a lot better. I immediately thought of Dad back home and wanted to bring some back to him, but I really didn't think it would keep very well.
Put down. Yeah.
After our first taste of Holland, we headed towards the Scheepvaart Museum. A novel way to get there is by boat. You can't spend a day in Amsterdam and not take at least 1 tour of the canals. After all, the city is practically sitting in a maze of waterways. Some 120, in fact, and boats are still a common form of transport.
There we have 4 blocks for the fast-going traffic. You don't consider tunnels because they are built on the water. So you have to believe me.
Mum pointed out some of the 700-year-old buildings along the way, and I figured that if I'd been born here, I'd want to live along the waterfront. It reminds me a little of the Singapore River where the shophouses line the shore. But here, they have an added worry: flooding.
With a little balcony in front, lamp is burning in the hall, and that is the house of the mayor of Amsterdam. And he lives there for free. Son of a bitch.
The first thing I noticed about the people in Amsterdam was their excellent sense of humor. I hoped it would be the same throughout Holland. Much of the city rests on huge piles driven some 20 meters through the marshy surface soil to reach firmer ground below. And there are some 1,000 bridges in this city alone.
Nice and cool out here. Beginning to rain again.
Mum was really enjoying herself and seemed to be quite familiar with many of the sights, which seemed a little strange to me, since she wasn't born here. I suppose her mother used to show her pictures of the place when she was a child, and these memories were now coming back. My father is Peranakan, and I've always been familiar with his heritage. But my European roots are all too distant, and I can't say I experienced any feelings of nostalgia being here. The canal tour eventually led us to the Scheepvaart Maritime Museum. It was important for me to see this place, as the Verhagens had been seafarers and pioneers of the Dutch East India Company. Ships like these had plied through the poorly charted coastlines of Asia many years ago. The Verhagens were enterprising traders. They saw an opportunity to introduce their Kausha lamp to the colonialists and the locals of the East Indies.
Oh, wow. Look at this. This I have to...
While I was admiring this lovely 300-year-old riverboat, I suddenly felt a breath of cold air on my cheek, even though all the windows were closed.
Ouch. Move, Mum.
I wondered if it was the old spectre's way of showing friendliness, or perhaps it was one of my ancestors trying to make his presence felt.
Rich used to use this, and it was pulled by horses.
Yeah.
You think it still floats? I don't know. Probably. Oh, wow, look at the ship, Mum. We should go up, yeah?
Okay.
Yeah? Yeah?
The highlight of this museum visit was boarding the Amsterdam, a replica of the ill-fated ship that never made it to Indonesia on its maiden voyage. It was carrying some very expensive cargo for trade, and that was all lost at sea. I wonder if that included Kausha lamps.
Shall we walk in there?
Although there were no Verhagens on the ill-fated Amsterdam, this was the same type of vessel my forefathers had sailed to the east in.
So tiny.
The deck outside was quite spacious, but once inside, we realized just how uncomfortable sea travel must have been. People must have been a lot shorter than they are now. You couldn't walk anywhere upright. Imagine 6 to 9 months at sea with a bent spine.
Oh, wow.
Not very good for the posture. Unless they had all been midgets.
Oh, wow.
I wondered what went through the minds of the first Verhagens as they embarked on their new destination in Asia. Did they know that this would be a one-way journey and that they might eventually start new families?
Wow.
Could they have anticipated that entire generations of Verhagens would end up making Asia their home? I bet the name Theo wasn't part of their Dutch vocabulary then.
Oh, toilets are tiny. Oh, my. Toilet with a view. Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is.
I was also beginning to wonder just how tall they really were. No, I think it's locked. Having now experienced and seen the type of vessel that carried my forefathers on their first journey, we felt really anxious to get underway on our new adventure. The next day, we set out on a bus trip to Rotterdam. This was the city where the lamps had been made, so it would be hopefully full of leads for us to follow. We saw the symbol of Holland, the windmills. They have certainly evolved over the centuries and are still a great source of renewable energy. We stopped for lunch at a scenic cafe, which was right on the edge of a dike. We took a typical Dutch meal called uitsmijten, which means throw out. It was ham and eggs on toast, a really wholesome meal. I wonder why it was called throw out. The dike, a man-made embankment, runs 35 kilometers along the Dutch coast and shuts the sea out. It's also created an IJssel lake in the vast land of central Holland. Now we know where all the herring comes from. We made it to Rotterdam by nightfall. I wondered just how close I'd really get to digging up my family roots. What if I couldn't find the lamp, or the factory, or even a Verhagen? Was this trip really going to be worthwhile? Rotterdam is not like Amsterdam. It's much more commercialized and more industrial. But I fancied it wasn't as scenic compared to Amsterdam. We boarded a tram and headed for the museum. We always figured that it would be the best place to start in our search for the lamp and the factory where they had been made.
The museum's somewhere around here as well. World Trade Center.
Before I left Singapore, I'd contacted the museum via internet in the hope that they might know something about the lamps. The museum was expecting a visit from us, but still, we were pleasantly surprised when the curator himself greeted us on arrival and gave us a very private tour. He had a few surprises of his own up his sleeve for us.
Right.
The 19th century was a very important...
We learned a lot about Rotterdam and its development into one of the busiest seaports in the world. It is our ancestral hometown, and we should know more about it, the myths, and what seemed to have been a pretty lavish lifestyle.
And the directors of the sea companies, a lot of things on it. Yeah, crystal glass. A lot of things on it which showed something about the life in Rotterdam, or the things people thought were important. So here you see the portraits of important people from Rotterdam in the 17th and 18th century. People who made Rotterdam a big sea trade.
Looking at all the portraits on the wall, I couldn't help but wonder, could one of these portraits be a Verhagen?
That's what they say about Rotterdam people, that they always come back. So I warn you. They always have to come back.
I hoped he was right about
So
this.
I have here something interesting for you. This is a lampenkousje from the 19th
Now it was
century.
time for the surprise. The curator had found 2 cores belonging to the lamp.
Oh, wow. There's a writing, scribbling on the side that says that.
Yeah. Someone has, we don't know, ship or the lamp. Yeah. This is a smaller one, but this is a very old box.
Yes.
This was our best lead so far. We had now seen the lamp cores, the lighting elements, so there had to be complete lamps somewhere in Rotterdam.
You were there to look what's inside. And this is the...
And there was
city
more.
center, the
He
market
also
center.
had the exact location of the factory.
Nice information for
He
you.
showed us where it was on a model layout of the city.
Was not in the city, but was on the Oude Dijk. So dijk, it means it's outside of the city. Ouderdijk number 149. And that must be somewhere in the northeastern part of Rotterdam.
We headed straight for the outskirts of town. Now that we had the address for the factory, maybe the lamps would be in the same vicinity.
Wow, look at all the flowers. Yeah.
Along the way, we couldn't resist stopping off at a flower shop. Here, in the midst of a chilly autumn, we found a complete range of beautiful blossoming flowers to choose from. I learned on this trip that Singapore and Holland had more in common than their busy ports. Both are also major exporters of flowers.
All the buildings.
We set off in search of 149 Ouderdijkstraat in anticipation, but we were not quite prepared for what lay ahead. The Verhagen factory, which had once manufactured thousands of lamps for customers in Holland, Indonesia and Malaya, was now a supermarket, and closed at that. It was a letdown, but although we really didn't expect to see the factory still standing in all its splendor, at least now we knew what had happened to it. We had no real leads to follow now, except that in our conversation with the museum curator, he'd mentioned something about a Verhagen Foundation. We set up a meeting at the local council. We figured that if the foundation was still operating, we'd also be able to find some relatives we could track down, and maybe the lamp. So we kept our fingers crossed.
You have to on a holiday to Japan, Singapore.
Maybe you would know about this foundation, the Verhagen Stichting.
Stichting, yes.
Have you heard of it? Do you know where
which
it is?
One? There are many
Dr. G.P.H.
Verhagen Stichting Foundation. No. That can be found out.
Maybe if they have a picture.
At the council office, the official then suggested calling the Chamber of Commerce to check on the registration of the foundation.
So we can call to the Chamber of Commerce and ask the address of the foundation. Mag ik nog even een informatietje hebben over een stichting bij u ingeschreven? Ook op het andere nummer, 06-nummer?
Mum had a real advantage over me because she could understand what was being said over the phone. I knew I should have learnt Dutch as a child when she suggested it, but I guess I was just too lazy to learn.
PJC, could be Philip something. Oh, they've got a foundation.
He confirmed that there was a foundation in existence, but nothing much else. It was all getting a little confusing and frustrating. Feeding the pigeons helped to chase away the exasperation of being so close, yet so far.
Colder than yesterday. Yeah, but not so windy. So
the fresh air helped to clear the mind. We decided to go all the way back to the street where the factory was and hope that the nearest antique dealer might know what had happened to the foundation and, if we were lucky, the lamps.
Supermarket sign
behind Denton.
The VIR.
He couldn't help us, but he certainly tried. He told us about an antique fair which was going on in Rotterdam that very day. All the leading antique dealers would be there. So off we went to our next lead.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Oh. Want dat was 300 jaar geleden. Ja,
The fair was full of priceless gems. I wish I'd won a lottery before we came here. I could have bought practically everything on display.
Visit the door. No, this door or port.
It was a wonderful distraction, but we pressed on with our quest.
We are actually looking for a particular lamp.
Yeah, someone came to me and to describe this lamp. Could you describe it again?
It was produced 300 jaar geleden.
Ja.
In Rotterdam. Mijn overgrootvader had een fabriek hier.
What sort of light was it though?
You don't speak Dutch, is it?
Yeah, explain.
It turned out he was just a little confused since he had never heard of the Kausha lamp.
Speciaal gebrand was, was het helemaal zwart.
Zo dit gaas, dan werd het licht.
It was soaked in some kind of salt.
Because my mum remembers it vaguely, because her father told her about it and described it.
If it was a steel and porcelain object, there should be more around.
She said it was very decorative.
Brass,
Probably brass.
Yeah.
They closed down the factory.
Oh.
Because they couldn't compete with the light bulb.
Now they've got a supermarket there.
Yeah, supermarket, yeah. So
We tried the other antique dealers.
Actually, he was saying we should ask the guy in the stall next to him, because this guy has an antique shop in Rotterdam.
Mijn overgrootvader had een factorij hier in Rotterdam, een lampenfactorij. Nee, excuse me. En 300 jaar geleden hij maakte die Fico-lampen. En Fico en gloeilampen ook.
Gloeikausje.
Ja. Er werd het koud, maar overal gezocht.
Ik denk dat dat heel moeilijk is hoor. Ik denk niet dat dat... Kijk, het enige wat ik zou weten, dat zijn die gloeilampen dan, weet je. En dan heb je die met de lontjes en alles. Dan kom je op die olielampen terecht. Maar dat is het niet natuurlijk.
Nee. Daar brandt het shop.
You own an antique shop.
We spoke to this one gentleman with a rather magnificent moustache, and he looked every inch the antique dealer. He was a very helpful person. In fact, they all were. They seemed to take a real interest in our quest and made every effort to assist us and offer us advice wherever we went. But it was all for naught.
What was that?
Then we can't help.
Oh, no, thank you.
Anyway,
Dank je. Naples, Nice, Singapore, Station Hotel.
Well, now we had come to a complete end. It was time to make a decision. Should we stay in Rotterdam or should we head back to Amsterdam to catch the flight back home?
Looking for the information.
It was time for a mother and daughter tete-a-tete.
The lamp, but they don't know where we can find it. How do you say cheers in Dutch?
Cheers.
Proost. Proost?
Singapore, my grandmother had told us of a grand aunt who lived in a town called Groningen, about 3.5 hours away. She would now be in her late 70s. We did send her a letter, but it was returned to us undelivered. This was a real long shot, but we decided to give it a try. When we arrived in Groningen, we went straight to the tourist bureau for help.
Hello. Hi. May I help you?
Yeah, we're looking for a street. What's the name of the street?
Molenstraat.
Molenstraat, yeah.
Mole Street, it's over here.
Okay, yeah.
That's the one.
But no Molenstraat.
Oh, no.
Do you know, we're looking for some relatives.
Yes.
And they go by the name of Verhagen. Do you know if anyone we could call to find out if they're still living here?
Well, you can go or to it's called the Rijksarchief, and that's over here. Here.
Okay.
So here's the central station, and here is the Rijksarchief.
Okay.
But I think they're closed now, so maybe you can...
She couldn't help us herself, but told us to go to the Rijksarchief, which means archive office. But it was too late in the day, so she kindly organized a quick tour of the area for us.
And good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
If we need any help, we'll come back.
Okay, that's okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye.
Groningen is a beautiful town, full of history, as we learned from our guide Maria. With some 68,000 inhabitants, it is the most important town in the northern Netherlands.
From the 17th century, which also reminds us of the period when it was still tax office, is the Latin phrase in it, which means give the emperor which belongs to him. And then Groningen was a gift from the German emperor, it was Henry III, and he gave Groningen to the Bishop of Utrecht.
Fancy someone giving a town away as a gift. I don't think Singaporeans would be very happy about having their island given to someone else as a birthday present.
All over Groningen, founded for the poor people. And
we also found out that the people of Groningen are very kind-hearted. They had built a shelter for homeless people to stay in free of charge.
Or pilgrims who went to the Martin Church could stay here for some night.
Hulp en troost van man en vrouw is opgericht dit groot gebouw. In rusten ieder hier zijn tijd en het einde van zijn leven smijt.
Mum's Dutch may have been a little rusty, but she was certainly enjoying having the opportunity to use it.
I found your street, but it's a small street. It is a very, very narrow street.
Over the course of the tour, Maria became very interested in our story and offered to help try and find our grand-aunt. At the post office, we tried to see if her name was listed. We looked up old phone books and found nothing.
It's a very strange name.
Maria helped us book an appointment with the Rijksarchief, the archive office. We couldn't get the appointment until the next morning, so there wasn't much we could do but to have a look around town.
We'll help you. We will show you around tomorrow morning. Mr. Beuze. And the address is Cascadeplein 4.
Oh, look, Mom. Look at all the... Oh, wow. Oh. I certainly was missing the tropical climate of Singapore at this stage. It was time to seek for warmth indoors, and we found it in a photo studio with costumes for hire. I decided this was my big chance to dress up in the Dutch national costume. The closest I had ever come to seeing anything like this was when I used to color in the cartoons on the packets of the Dutch brand of milk my mum would buy for me when I was a kid.
28. It's so different. A bit bigger.
The traditional Dutch dress is no longer worn in public, except for national events. The same goes for the wooden clogs. The Dutch are very trendy in their dress sense these days, and you can usually only find outfits like these at tourist shops.
Bring your hair forward.
I guess we have the same attitude to our Malay kebaya.
From underneath the thing, right.
The Verhagen women would have all probably dressed like this 300 years ago. It was probably quite the fashion in those days. Mum was thrilled to see me in this traditional dress. Still, it's not the sort of thing you'd wear down Orchard Road on a Saturday afternoon, is it?
Vicky. Okay.
Why is the door not open?
Deur opent zich als andere deur gesloten is.
Meaning?
That means the door opens until that one is closed.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
Actually, the information you are looking for is too recent to be kept in this record office because we keep...
At the archive office, we met Mr. Bowser, and he had some news for us.
But I did find something. 6 family tree.
Oh.
Unfortunately not the one of Verhagen, but...
He had traced the family tree of the 6 all the way back to the 1600s. A Herod 6 in the family tree was the ex-son-in-law of my grand-aunt Verhagen. But, comprehensive as the 6th family tree was, it led us no closer to the Verhagens. But, like all the Dutch people we had met so far, Mr. Bowser did not give up. He suggested we make a phone call to the city council to see whether they could help us trace Grand-Aunt Verhagen. Hi, yes, hi. Would it be possible if I could use your phone? Yes. Just to make a phone call to the city council, yeah? Yes. Thank you. Hello, could I speak to Mr. Nord, please? Hi, Mr. Nord? Yes, hi. I'm calling from the archives. I'm at the archives right now, and Mr. Bowser told me to call you. The archives. The Groningen archives? Yeah, and I was recommended by Mr. Bowser.
to call you to ask you if I could find out the address of my relatives. They seem to have moved. Should I give you just the name or the address as well, the old address? Oh, you can't give it. Would I be able to make an appointment with you, maybe?
We were unable to get the information we needed over the phone, and we also could not get an appointment on the same day. I guess not everyone had the same sense of urgency as us.
All right, thank you very much.
Time was running out. We were yet at another dead end. But then our luck changed. A colleague of Mr. Bowser had heard our story.
89, that was the last time, yeah.
It turns out that he knew Gerrit Six, the ex-son-in-law of Grand Aunt, who is quite a well-known contemporary artist. It really is a small world sometimes.
Dan ben je
L-S-I-L.
Ben je bij Verhagen kijken dan?
Verhagen?
Ja.
Ja.
Jane.
Jane?
Jane.
Nee, Trudy.
It's T-H.
He told us that Grand Aunt might have moved to a suburb of Groningen. A check with the computer found us a possible telephone number and address of a T. Verhagen, who might just be Grand Aunt Theodora.
Verhagen, Nijhofflaan, Regentusstraat. Regentusstraat, ja. Singelweg, Slachthuisstraat, Surabaya-straat, Steenhouwerskade, Van Julsingastraat en...
We were over the moon and couldn't thank the people at the archives enough. But we still needed to call and confirm.
Number is 541.
Hallo, kan ik met Dora Verhagen spreken? Ah, tante Dora, ik ben Barbara van Singapore. Lizzie's dochter? Ja, ik ben in Singapore. Kan ik u opzoeken? Ik ben in Groningen op het moment. Kan ik u opzoeken? Ja, is dat oké? Is het adres 377 Amtemarkeer? Oké, dan zie ik u in een half uurtje. Oké, goed, tot ziens. Dag.
What did she say?
Yeah, she says okay. She's looking forward to our coming.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Jackpot! We had finally located her. And although Mum appeared rather calm and collected, I'm sure she had 300 butterflies in her stomach. We quickly decided to pick up some presents. What do you buy a grand aunt you don't know? Flowers and a teddy bear, of course.
Okay, yeah, y'all can get their chocolate.
We had a whole bus to ourselves, courtesy of the Netherlands Tourist Board. Our bus driver, Henk, was eager to help us as we ventured into the suburbs of Groningen in search of our long-lost grand aunt. Anticipation, coupled with impatience, made us all a little tense. I could tell Mom was getting a little fidgety as every turn seemed to lead us down the wrong track.
Hold on for a little bit. 264. 269 is a lot further down.
Dutch have a different way of naming their streets. Or perhaps it's just that we Singaporeans aren't real good with maps.
Don't know. Yeah, she said, well, the road we have drive,
perhaps the sprawling suburbs were a whole new landscape compared to our public housing back home. I don't know, but when in doubt, always ask the locals. Not just one, but a few.
Ja, want ik ben daar begonnen, maar dan zie je verder geen nummers.
Maar het gaat helemaal door.
Ben je dan ook?
Ja, het loopt helemaal in de ronde. Dus waarschijnlijk vindt u hem wel.
Oké, bedankt.
Oké, succes. Doei.
Doei.
Is it an odd number, Angel? 377? 377.
It's here.
Okay, this is the right road. Maybe down there. Yeah, I think left.
Yeah, maybe this lady will know on the left.
Weet u het nummer 377? 378? Die flat?
Yeah, okay.
At last, we found it. Who was going to open the door to us?
Ja, dag tante Dora.
En wie zit er
Ik ben Barbara. Ja, jawel, ik herken je nog wel. Leuk. Dit is mijn dochter.
Ja, ik ben je naam vergeten. Kom binnen.
Angelique.
En Angelique.
82. Een beetje lastig. We gaan met de bus overal. Is een beetje lastig. Ja.
Hij is koffie maken.
Mag ik naar de badkamer?
Die is naar Indonesië gegaan en toen met oma getrouwd. Maar dat was al niks bijzonders. Dus helemaal ja, hoe zal ik zeggen? Zoveel weten en zo. En toen was hij of die ene was overleden. En toen is hij ook daarheen gegaan om te begraven. Ook opa Johannes Verhagen begraven. Maar toen is dit geen erfenis, nooit contact.
I can't believe Grandaunt Verhagen is 80 years old. I wanted to find out what vitamins she was taking. In fact, she seemed more Oriental than European. It turns out that Grandaunt Verhagen is Eurasian and lived her younger days in Surabaya with her husband and 3 children. Granduncle died a few years back, and only her daughter Jane still lives in Holland. So she's pretty much alone now. She gave us her daughter's contact and explained how she had moved away from the old address, the one we originally had, after her daughter Jane divorced Gerrit Six and left Groningen.
Ja.
Maybe those are the J's that we saw then.
Waar is je papier?
J.
Grandaunt Verhagen gave us some more contacts.
Sikkema zingen. Sikkema zingen.
Door deze mensen?
Oh, maar dat is zijn werk.
Dat is zijn werk, ja.
Oh, mooi. Je kent heel de wereld, hè? Waarom lach je? Maar, is dat zo? Ja, is het pas voor het eerst dat zij naar Nederland?
First time, ja, eerste keer, ja.
Kom je wel weer?
Will you come again? Will you come
again?
Yes.
Ja, jouw vader hebben we ook gekend.
Ja.
Heel mooi huis in Surabaya.
Ja.
En dan zijn vader, jouw vader, heeft nog een moeder, die heb ik ook gekend.
Ja.
Ze kwamen van India, hè?
Ja.
Kan je nagaan, de wereld is klein, hè? Haar vader, die kwam uit India.
She asked us why we were filming, and we explained that the crew were there to record our journey. Grandaunt Verhagen actually visited Singapore some 15 years ago with her daughter Jane. And this is a picture of my late granduncle. It was a great feeling. Here I was, thousands of miles away from home, yet so close to my family, Mum's family. Grandaunt Verhagen seems very contented. She has for company these friendly gaggle of geese who seem to have adopted her. So too have the local villagers who visit her every day to feed the geese together. I was happy to share in a part of her daily life, but it was time to go. And when we finally left, Grandaunt Verhagen stood at her door and waved for what seemed an eternity. We noticed for the first time in days that the sun was now shining, and we stopped to take in the countryside and reflect on how far we had come on this journey. We had now completed 2 parts of the puzzle. We had located the family factory, and we had found a long-lost relative. All that was left now was the lamp, and we had to head home the next day. So for now, one last look at Groningen. Funny how when you establish a bond with a person, you see their town as your own, absorbing the sights and sounds. if everyone feels this way about people and places. I know Groningen will always be special to me.
All the boats. Yeah, I get colorful building.
One of the best views is from the Martini Clock Tower. As I looked out across this picturesque university town, I felt quite content. My journey was not wasted. I had found what I was looking for. The lamp was still eluding me, but hey, that was no big deal, because now I know a lot more than when I first embarked on this journey. Back in Amsterdam, we had one last day to kill, and I remembered Dad's cheese. He loves it, and this is a cheese lover's paradise. A myriad of varieties are available here, as Holland is one of the 6 major cheese producers in the world. Their speciality is Edam, which is a hard cheese named after the area in Holland where it is made.
Not like that.
But they also make all the other popular types, like Camembert, Brie, Parmesan, and Cheddar.
Thank you.
I chose an Edam for Dad, since this is his favorite. And after all, this is Holland. This is good. It was our last day in Amsterdam, and we took a stroll around the flea markets. There were certainly a lot of old knickknacks and artifacts from the past. We also saw plenty of lamps, but unfortunately, no kosher lamps. The sights and sounds of Holland in the past few days swept vividly through my mind. Amsterdam is stunning by night. There was a time when the street lamps and house lights had the Verhagen name on them. My great-granduncle left a will that no one from the 1st to the 4th generation could claim any inheritance. But I lay claim to a different legacy. It makes me feel good that someone in my past lit up the lives of millions of people. Going to my grandaunt's place and finding her was overwhelming.
The expectations I had were that I would find the lamp, maybe.
Going on a trip is like just going with a friend of the same age. You know, it's not like going with your mother. You get to do whatever you want. You know, you go walk around and just do anything you would do with someone your own age. So.
I cherish the experience going with Angel because it's not something you do every day. Going off with your daughter, looking for your ancestry in a country you've never been to, you know?
I would highly recommend anyone who was thinking about it to do it, you know.
Don't forget to catch the last episode of The Tourist Trap tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. Meanwhile, find out how the biggest names in the modeling industry were discovered in Models Close Up next.